Welcome back to Redefine Parenting. I'm your host, Vinu Keller. I want to welcome you to Spanglish World Network and Her Network on Zingo TV, channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download both Zingo TV app on the respective app stores and iOS Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire Stick, Roku Sticks, and also on smart TVs 2016 and forward. Today is a very special day for me because I have one of my mentors that I have followed for years. I've seen her speak on Tony Robbins' stage, and the first time I heard her speak, I had chills. And to have her here on my show is such an honor, not just to me, but it's honoring you listeners out there that get to hear her speak today. I reached out to my guest because hearing her story about what she went through as a child to who she is today and the amazing business that she has created with her beautiful wife. It's just been an absolute story that needs to be told, because today in our world, us parents have this gap the way we parent our kids, because we are still looking at how were we parented, what were the best things our parents did for us, and what could we change for our kids. We're in a totally different generation now. We're in Generation Alpha. And a lot of us are still Gen X kids, right? And so we can't parent that way anymore. We have to be able to listen to our kids, hear what they need, and support them in what they need. So that is why I brought the one and the only Siri Lindley onto our show. So Siri, thank you so much for being here and really just supporting this.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Vinu. I love what you're doing in the world. I think this is just so important, so needed. And I feel so blessed and honored to have been asked to speak, because this is something that matters a lot to me as well. So thank you so much for the opportunity. And I so look forward to our conversation.
Thank you so much again. And, one of the things one of the biggest reasons why I brought you is because you, to me, represent the word authenticity. When I hear you speak, I've met you, at events when you're going through them yourself. It's like you really sit there and say, I got to clean up my backyard before I can help the world. And so I've seen you as a participant. I've seen you, really dive in and, work on your own stuff. And now look at you. And so, I want, if you don't mind, to just share a little bit of your background of where you were at and where you're at now, so we can just start the conversation like that, so parents can understand the whole why of why I brought you in.
Well, thank you, Vinu. And I would love to share this authenticity that you see in me now has been something that has been my life's mission, because I reached a point in my life where I didn't want to suffer anymore. And the suffering came so much because I was trying to be everything I thought I needed to be for everyone around me. And this all started as a kid. When I was 4 years old, my mom and my dad had actually divorced, and my mom started seeing a really famous man that she fell madly in love with. And he broke up with her. And when he broke up with her, she tried to take her own life. And my sister and I was 4, my sister was 6. We went running into my mom's bedroom because we heard this crying, and she was on the ground and had finished off a bottle of pills. And in that moment, as a 4-year-old, I made the decision that I am not enough for my mom to want to stick around.
Wow.
And you think, how can a 4-year-old make that kind of a decision? Well, I did. And sometimes we hold on to that decision, that idea, that belief our whole lives, which is why we leave relationships early, or we just don't believe that anyone will stick around for us. Now, this man ended up coming back, asked my mom to marry him. Actually, he came out, we had moved out to Colorado, and to escape him, to, thank God my mom didn't succeed in killing herself, but we wanted to get away. And he knocked on the door, And my sister and I answered, and he sat us down and he said, "I want to marry your mother." And my sister said, "Yeah, that's great." He said, "I won't do it without your permission." And I said, "No, no, you can't marry my mother." And at this point, I'm 5 years old and I'm telling him he can't marry my mother, but he marries her anyway. So the second thing that I make a decision about is that I don't have a voice. What I say
Mm,
doesn't matter. They ended up being married for the next 13 years. And it was not a happy time in my life at all. But after 13 years, he asked her for a divorce. Now, even though at this time I'm a 17-year-old girl who's grown up a lot, I go right back into my 4-year-old self and say, the last time this happened, the last time he left, my mom tried to take her own life. So
mm,
I go into panic mode. And suddenly my whole reason for living became wanting to make life worth living for her, wanting to be everything that I needed to be to make sure that she didn't want to leave me and would stick around. Now, I want to say something super important, because when my mom looks back at this time, that's not what she was feeling. She was feeling freedom. She could finally, do the things she wanted to do in her life. But I made up this story in my mind because of what happened as a 4-year-old, that she was going to die if I didn't do everything in my power to make her happy, to never be a worry, to never be a problem, and to make life worth living.
So can I just to bring it to focus for us parents is that we don't realize that the behavior that we are having as parents, how our children are interpreting it, how their beliefs are getting constructed by what they see us as parents are going through. And as much as we try to hide it, because I mean, I'm a mom of six. And there's so many times, like when I was a single mom for 9 years, that I tried to hide the pain. I tried to hide the fact that I wanted to kill myself. I tried to hide it. And now that my boys are 28 and 24, I look at some of the belief systems that they also received watching me suffer, which I thought was in silence, but it really wasn't, And so I just wanted to bring that to light as you tell your story, because it's time us parents start to reflect on what are we in our behavior showing our kids, and how are they interpreting it? Because just like what you're saying, that's not what your mom got from it. You got it from it, but she didn't see it that way.
That's right. And Vino, on that, because I think it's so incredibly important, even you saying you suffered in silence, your kids know. Your kids know when you're in pain. Your kids know when you're suffering. So if you are not expressing that, this is on the other side of things. If you don't express that, then they're learning to suffer in silence as well,
Yeah.
which is not what we want our kids to do.
No.
Because asking for help is often the most important thing. So thank you for bringing that up, because yes, what was my mom giving me an example of? That if you suffer, just check out.
Right.
But also you suffering in silence gives the impression that we're meant to just suffer and not say anything about it, which is what started happening with me. So everything that I did every moment of the day was to make her happy, to not be a problem, I felt like I just had to be, I was an achiever. I became an achiever. I got into, 3 different Ivy League universities. I went to Brown University. I'm 3-sport varsity athlete. I'm trying to get straight A's. And I have all this pressure because I'm trying to be something that is enough for my mom to want to stick around.
Yeah.
And in this, what happens is I had so much pressure on myself. I was so overwhelmed with this responsibility I put on myself. Remember this, she didn't ask this of me, but I put this on myself. And the only way I could deal with it was I developed these OCD behaviors, not just OCD that can help us achieve, but I'm talking about trying to leave my dorm room to go to class or to lacrosse practice and being stuck, flicking lights on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off for sometimes an hour, because I was waiting for the moment where I could have just one moment without a horrible thought of my mom killing herself or getting sick or all these horrible things happening.
So it was a distraction. It was a refocus. So you didn't focus on that.
But it kept, I mean, imagine the energy and imagine the stress. And nobody in that day, and this is super important too, nobody spoke about anxiety. Nobody spoke about OCD. Nobody spoke about fear. So here I am, and I'm thinking that there's something really wrong with me. You know, I'm crazy. I don't know what I'm doing. Who am I? And I was in so much pain. Like on the outside, it looked like I had it made because I pretended that everything's okay. But I reached a point where I was just so exhausted that I didn't want to live anymore. And this is where the message I got, hey, when it gets too hard, just check out. But it's so crazy because, you know, Vinu, we met through Tony Robbins, and it was at that point in time, I'm 21 years old, Brown University, when Tony Robbins' works are starting to be circulated. And I started listening to his stuff and read his first book. And the most important thing that came from that is that one statement, where focus goes, energy flows, which made me reflect on what I was focusing on 99.9% of the day, which was everything I feared, everything I didn't want to have happen, everything that was missing, everything that was wrong, everything I had no control over. My mom, what she did, how she responded and reacted to life and the things that happened. And in that moment of clarity, I realized that it's all up to me. That if I want this suffering to end, it's all in my hands. And I have to, for me, rescue myself by redirecting my focus to what was good, to what I had, to what I loved, to what I wanted to create in my life, and to what I had all the control over, which is my own experience of life. In every single moment, and this is the same for you, you get to choose what to focus on.
Yeah.
You get to choose what meaning to give the things that happen to you, and you get to choose what to do about it. And that saved my life. So I'll stop there before I continue, but there's so much in that I think is really important.
There is. And, you know, and even with my own experience, that's what shifted for me too, is that when I went to my first Tony event, I didn't hear about him until 2007. And it was that same thing, is where, you know, where focus goes, energy flows. And nothing has a meaning but the meaning you give it. And when I left there, that UPW specifically, I knew that I was going to live. I knew suicide was, after 21 years, suicide was no longer an option. I just didn't know what my life was going to look like. But I also knew I had the power of choice. I can make it look like whatever I want. When I step out of that door to head back home to North Carolina, I knew that I had choices, that I was not where I thought I had to be. I was not stuck. I didn't have to end my life in 2016 because my kids were now 18. Like all these stories that I had created all of a sudden diminished, and I knew that I could create a new story. And that's when I chose to live. And that's where my life took off too. And so it's these moments of clarity. And that's really what it comes down to. And you said it. It's like when you had that moment of clarity. And so it's not too late for parents out there, whoever's listening to us. This is not about, oh gosh, I'm a bad parent. I did this, I did that. You're doing the best that you can with what you know. And you don't know what you don't know. And that is why I'm bringing people like Siri on here to educate, to let us know that today's a new day. What story do you want to create? What do you want differently for your kids to see? Because Siri, you pointed it out, like when life got tough, you knew the solution was check out, because that's what you learned from your mom.
Yeah, that's right. And in those moments, it's so important what you say, Vinu, that we can change today. We can change today. And I think another thing you kind of touched upon is what has to happen in order to change today is you need to forgive yourself for maybe not doing things the way you wanted up until this point. I mean, we are all doing the best that we can with what we know, with the tools that we have, with the strategies that we've been given. And when you learn that, yes, you can change your story today because you get to go first in deciding what story in life you want to live. Now, do you just flick a switch and you live this new story? No. You have to role play it. You have to condition it. You have to become that person that lives this story in life, which I'm sure you had to do too, Vinu, when you decided, okay, this, checking out's not an option. So living is, but you didn't just start living. You had to become that person that knew how to live to your highest potential. But it can happen right now. You can change the way you parent today. Does it need explanation? No, you just need to become that person that is more aware and that is refocusing and changing the channel. When you're going down a path that you know is not leading you to being your best for yourself, for your husband or wife, for your kids, change the channel and redirect yourself on a path that will lead you to where you want to go.
I love that. I love that, change the channel. And, as we forgive ourselves as parents, it's also recognizing what can you appreciate about those moments. I mean, I could appreciate how resilient I became. I can appreciate the determination I had. I could appreciate the fact that I was a strategist and I just had to create new strategies. It's finding the gifts in those moments and knowing those moments are attached to that time. Those moments don't have to be attached to you today. It's like what I tell my clients, whether you're a child or a parent that I work with, is don't look in the rear view mirror and try to drive your car straight because you'll crash it.
Yes.
Take
Yeah.
off the rear view mirror and say, if I'm going to look forward, what did I learn from my past? What were the gifts that helped me be who I am today? Focus on that because that is where your energy will go. And that's exactly what I did. And it sounds like that's what you did too. You started to focus on, what energy do you want and where do you want to go versus staying where you were at, flicking on lights and thinking that was life.
Absolutely. I mean, I had been living in a place that was trying to keep myself safe from anything and everything that could go wrong. And so I had to choose again to live in the space of focusing on what I loved, what I wanted to create, and sitting in the driver's seat of my own life and saying, I don't want to suffer anymore. I'm done suffering. I don't want to suffer anymore. So, okay, if I don't want to suffer anymore, then is what I'm focusing on in this minute now going to help me find freedom or lead me to more suffering? So it was checking in with myself almost every single moment and saying, what do I want most in life, which is freedom, freedom from suffering, freedom to live and create a life that I want to live. And so in that moment, okay, well, what am I focusing on? And is that going to help me get what I want most in life, which is my freedom? Or is it going to lead to more suffering? If it's going to lead to more suffering, then that's when I have to change the channel, focus on something that's going to take me where I want to go. But this was every single moment. I had to condition this until it became who I am today. And still, we all work at having this amazing mindset that takes us everywhere we want to go, but you're still going to have those thoughts that are tempting you to go back and fall into an old pattern, but you'll be aware and you can change it right away. But this was so incredibly important to commit to the practice of becoming that person that could live the life that I wanted to live.
And that's exactly it, practice. And that goes right back to what you said, is that you can change it right now, but is it going to make everything okay immediately? No, it's the practice.
Yes.
It's the practice of stopping and saying, is this taking me towards what I want or away from what I want? And if it is, change the channel. And I just want to reiterate that, we have the remote control. We can change it to whatever channel we want. Mm-hmm. So what channel did you change it to then?
I changed it to focusing on what I had, which was a loving family, a mom that loved me, a dad that loved me, a sister that loved me. I'm going to this amazing school. I'm a 3-sport athlete. I love what I'm learning about. I have abilities, I have work ethic, I have love, so much love in my heart, focusing on what I had, what I wanted. Now this was a bit of a problem because I had no idea what I wanted, because I'd spent the last 17 years just doing what I thought I needed to do to be loved, to be accepted. So the process began where I needed to figure out, who am I? And scary in some respects. Some of us do this at, 50 years old. It's like, but wait a second, who am I? And so, but I took it as, it's all about what we label it. I took it as, this is exciting. I'm going to figure out who I am and what I want in life.
Mm.
And one of the first things I did, this sounds so crazy, but I signed up to work at Club Med. I don't know if you've heard what Club Med is. We used to go on vacation there, and there are these people that work there, and they're, jumping up and down and getting you off your beach chair to go play sports and do all of this. And for me, I thought, I'm going to go to this place where nobody knows me, and I'm going to try on different things for size and see if it's me, because I don't know who I am. And to this point, I was, determined and focused and really shy, didn't laugh a lot. And I signed up for this job, and I arrived at this Club Med, and I said to myself, here, I'm going to be outgoing. I'm going to be inspiring. I'm going to make people laugh. I'm going to get people out of their beach chairs. I'm going to give them the best workout. I'm going to encourage them, and I'm going to hopefully make this the best vacation of their lives. Now, this was like not who I had been, but I knew that I needed to try this on for size to see if any of it was me. And what I realized was, yeah, I loved bringing out the best in people. I loved making people laugh. I loved inspiring people. And I had this energy inside of me that I rarely gave out to others. And then I realized there were other things that I do love. I'm very much an introvert, and I love that, but I have both sides to me. And then I also realized that I was gay, because every single night I was getting all dressed up, trying to look my best. And it wasn't for, the male sailing, instructor or the tennis instructor. It was for the lady that worked in the boutique. There was something about her. And when I was getting ready at night, I was getting ready, trying to look good for her. Now, this was a bit of a shock for me. And as you kind of are getting about me, I was very introspective and wanted to understand myself and why I felt the things that I did. But that was a big epiphany that I had that scared me. It scared me to death, because I'm just getting out of my own way. And now if I bring this back, what is this going to do to my parents?
And this was like in the 80s, yes?
Yeah.
So it's not like it is now. We didn't talk about it. I mean, I grew up in the 80s, and, my best friend of 43 years, we've been best friends for 43 years. And it's funny because she married her wife, and I told her, I said, I knew you were gay before you did it. She goes, you did? Because we just didn't talk about it, but you could see that energy, right? And I love her, and she's like my dearest friend to this day. Yeah. And because we didn't talk about it, she's like, how would I have talked about it in the 80s? And so it was such a tough time. Like, I have so many friends that I've grown up with that are now, they've come out gay. And when I asked them, like, we still would have liked you, but they couldn't even fathom that, because of, it was taboo. You didn't talk about it. You didn't want to be different, And so I can only imagine the extra feeling that you carried, the burden, if you would, of knowing, okay, now I'm gay. What do I do with this now?
And, this is coming off the back of hiding my OCD and hiding, my inner struggle. So yeah, it was a lot. But at this point, again, I'd made the decision that I don't want to suffer anymore. So let's just figure this out and try and get comfortable with it. And that was working out fine until 2 years later. My father called, and I haven't spoken much about my real father, but he was my greatest source of love. He was just always there. And he would drive 3 hours to every game, come watch the game and drive home. And he was my biggest supporter and he loved me. He like put me on this pedestal. But he calls me on this day and he is crying so hard that he can't even speak. And when he finally spoke, he said, "I was just told that you're gay. I could not possibly have a daughter that's gay. Siri, I beg you, tell me right now that this isn't true."
Mm.
And in that moment, I'm faced with having to make this decision. Do I choose my father and my relationship with him, or do I choose me? And the rest of my life with me. And so I said, "Dad, it's true. I'm gay, but I'm the same me. Just please love me anyway." And he hung up the phone. And I didn't hear from him for the next 2 years. And after that, it was hit or miss if I got a phone call on Christmas just to say Merry Christmas. And in that moment, I was losing a lifetime of my father's love because of who I was. Now that he knew who I really was, I was out.
Mm.
And it made me feel like everything that I had achieved, everything that I had become meant nothing. Meant nothing now that I was gay. And the story he was telling me with his action, with his hanging up the phone, the story he was telling me is that being gay makes me worthless. Being gay makes me a sinner. Being gay means that I will never be loved and I will never find success, joy, or fulfillment in my life. That was the story he was telling me. But remember, we get to go first in deciding what story we choose to live.
Correct.
And I was not willing to live that story. Now, in that moment, so I decided, I will. And yeah, it started at first like, I'll show him that being gay, being me, all of who I am, is where all my magic lies. That's where I will achieve the most extraordinary things. That's where I will inspire people. That's where I'll make a difference in this world. That's where I will be loved. Did I believe it in that very moment? No, my dad just told me I'm worthless. But I needed to devote my life to becoming that person that knew that being me, being fearlessly, authentically me, was going to be the thing that leads me to everything that I dream of doing and having in my life. So again, I had to role play that. What would future Siri do in this moment? Well, future Siri would go find some impossible challenge and devote her entire being to achieving it so that she can show herself, prove to herself that even as a gay woman, I can do extraordinary things. I can make a difference in this world. I can inspire. I can be loved. And most importantly, what I needed the most, that I can love myself. So it's up to you in those moments. Like, are you willing to live the story that someone's telling you about you? I wasn't. And my life then became a mission to live the story that I wanted to live. That being all of who I am, that's why I'm here. That's what the world wants. And that's what is going to be most important.
So that's that pivot. That's the pivot of, because you went to, I was trying to be this, I was trying to do that, and I was trying. And then all of a sudden that shift, what a gift your dad gave you, because it was in that moment that you realized authenticity was living for you, to be happy for you, to inspire others. And I just got chills, because that's the shift. Like when we say, what is being authentic, can't get that word out, authentic. It's being you at your core, not being you for someone else to get their love, not being you because you want someone to like you, not being you because, you want this plan to work out, but being you because it lights you up, being you because you matter. That's what authenticity means. And so as parents, what are we learning from this? What are we getting from this? It's, are we being that parent that's showing up for our kids? Because they do feel if you are being authentic. They know when you're hiding and pretending and wearing those masks. I'm speaking from firsthand from my kids who watched me wear a lot of masks. My kids also got to see the beauty of me transition into being who I am, to them congratulating me when I tell them my stats for my TV show that 650,000 people watch my show. And my son sat in my kitchen crying. And I'm like, are you okay? He's like, I'm so proud of you, Mom.
Oh,
Because it's me being me now. It's me being that self for me, not for anybody else. And that's what this is about. It's, how do we live our lives as parents? Because just imagine this. If you are authentic in the way that you parent and you show up because you matter, what is your child going to get from that? Who are they going to be? You're giving them permission to be who they are.
yes.
I have 6 kids on my caseload that are non-binary or gay.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 of them, I'm the first one that they told before they told their parents, because I didn't have judgment. I accepted them. I saw them for who they are. And I helped them to be able to communicate to their parents without feeling shame or blame.
Yes.
And they told me that was the moment they had that freedom and they knew their parents loved them. They waited that long to know their parents loved them. What is that saying?
You're exactly right. It's giving them permission to be all of who they are. But if you, as the parent, is not doing that, then they're learning that no, you just be what you need to be to fit in this situation. So, you know how Tony always says, are you a warning or are you an example?
Mm,
Because we are setting our kids up, or anyone for that matter that looks up to us, we are setting them up for their whole future. And I think a lot of times what we need to think about is that these are often generational patterns. My
yes.
father came from a family that was very conservative. Gay people were sinners, you know, all the stuff that goes along with that. And their parents were like that, and their parents, and their, for generations to come. But my father finally, and we'll talk about this, how we reconciled, but he was the brave one to feel the feelings, to do the hard work to end this generational pattern.
Love it.
You have the ability to do that too,
Yep.
because it's not like you've done something wrong by not encouraging authenticity or being you. You're just doing what you were taught. You were doing what you modeled. But now that you know better, you can do better. And I think that what's so important, I mean, we all, let's face it, we all just want the best for the people we love. We want them to shine. We want them to be their best. We want them to be happy. We want to know that we somehow played a small part in that. So if that's the case, let's set up our kids for success by saying, honey, you go be you. Because when you are being you, when you are living authentic, when you are doing the things that matter most to you and being all of who you are, that is where you will create this life that I so dream of you having, which
Yep.
is one of joy and love and success and fulfillment. That's where you're going to find it. Not trying to be something or fitting in a box. You're not going to find it there. And all I want is your happiness. Go be you.
I love it, because you're taking off the rules of what you need to do to be you. Because I said those are the rules for you. You have to go to college. You have to go to this college. You have to, be a doctor. They don't have to be anything but happy, healthy, and independent. That's all they need to be. And what can we, as parents, we get to support them. We don't have to. We get to. So,
Yeah.
Siri, so what happened then? So, like, take us on to going. So you're living in your purpose now. So then what happens with the rest of the story?
I don't know that I was yet living in my purpose, because I was trying to figure out what that
It
even was.
was.
But yes, I was, though, Vinu. Actually, you're totally right, because I was living in my purpose of wanting to figure out who I am and to find a love for myself, a trust in myself, and appreciation. And that's when I found triathlon, swimming, biking, and running. It had nothing to do with any of the sports I'd done my whole life, but I witnessed a friend doing a triathlon, and it's this incredible physical, mental, and emotional challenge. And when I was watching this race, to me, it looked like the one thing that every single person had in common is that they were discovering parts of themselves through this challenge. And so I thought, what a perfect vehicle to find me, to find out what I'm made of, to build my strength, my courage, to see how deep I can dig. And the problem was I didn't know how to swim. I'm 22 years old. I do my first race. I came in dead last and humiliated myself, which I didn't notice during it, because during it, I just had never felt so alive. I'm doing this thing that I'd never done before, and I'm building respect for myself. I'm proud of myself for doing it. But that night when I looked back, because I finished in dead last, that night when I got in bed, suddenly all the looks on the people's faces, when I'm running the 5K with my helmet on and, doing everything wrong and people laughing, then I started to cry. Because during the race, it was all me and me. And I felt alive. I felt proud of myself, excited. But when I went home, I started thinking about, well, how was being me today? How did that affect everyone around me? Well, they laughed at me. They were wondering why I was even there, why I even tried. But in that, again, I could have told myself the story, look, Siri, you don't know how to swim. You can't do a triathlon. And that would just be a story. And guess what? I wouldn't even be here today, probably. But instead, I decided that night that because I'm an athlete, I'm determined, I've got this reason why I must do this for me, that because of that, I can become great at this. And I actually decided on that night of the day where I came in dead last, I decided that I was going to be the best in the world in the sport, that I didn't even know how to swim. And it was crazy. But to me, it was almost like me taking my own hand and saying, you know what, Siri, let's say yes to this. Because I believe in you and we will do whatever it takes. And I remember saying to my mom, I said, I don't care if I'm 98 years old, but I will not stop until I achieve this goal. I didn't care how long it took, but I knew that it would be my life's mission, because at the finish line, what would, putting the medal around my neck would be me saying, Siri, we did it. And I love you. I'm proud of you. And you always have me. You always have me. So it was an 8-year journey, which may seem long to some of you, may seem short to some of you, but I became the number 1 triathlete in the world and I won the world championships. Now, was this pretty? No, it was ugly. I mean, I failed over and over and over again. But this is what's so important as parents too, that, I've had some clients that their kids start facing some kind of a struggle in grade school or junior high school, and they're struggling overcoming some kind of a challenge. And I say to my client, well, you've had so many challenges, you've failed many times in your life. Remind them of those things so that they know that you failed too. And he said, oh no, I've never shared my failures with my kids. I don't want them to know that I failed. And that's the problem. Because the moment your child fails, if they don't know that you at some point in your life struggled, you at some point in your life failed, you at some point in your life doubted yourself, if they don't know that you've done that, then they think there's something really wrong with them.
Right.
And they're going to
and they close up. They close up because I can't fail because I'm not going to be good enough for my parent. And so there's 2 things I want to touch on there. One of the things is that I always tell my kids, fail forward. You're going to fail forward.
Yes.
And what does that mean? That means that you're not going to get it this time or next time or the next time. And you're going to stay on it and you're just going to change your approach and you're going to figure it out. You're going to find out what are those little gaps that keep you from getting what you want until you get it. And that's how we fail forward. The second thing I tell them, I said, you either win or you learn. Because when you win for that moment. It's a moment in time, put the goal on, yay, I'm the best. But when you do not win, you learn. And learning will be a win that you have for a lifetime. So you get to choose. Do you want that win for the moment or do you want that win for the lifetime? Because when you don't win it in that moment, you get the win of learning. And all the learning will affect you in your lifetime. So you actually get the win for a lifetime. And so my husband and I have also the 10-year-old twins, and this is the stuff that we get to feed their mind because it builds their character, it builds their self-worth, and it builds the self-esteem. So when people are crying that, hey, we lost, my kids are like, but what did we learn?
Yes. Amazing. Amazing. And let me even add to that, because that was actually my whole philosophy as I was doing this, because I was failing a lot. And I also knew that success builds upon success. So I actually changed winning to progress, any kind of progress. If I'm better than I was the day before, whether that be physically, emotionally, mentally, that's progress. I'm winning. And losing or failing was learning. So I love that. And if we can pass that to our kids, it's just like you're doing, fail forward. I love that. But it's a matter also, I think it's so incredibly important. I know a lot of parents that maybe they have kids that are in athletics or kids that are doing things that when they do really well, they get showered with love and they go out for ice cream and they do this. And every time the child wins, they get this massive outpouring of love. And I love that. But I believe that what's so important is let's do that outpouring of love when they're a kind person, when they've helped someone at school that was having a tough time, or when they're kind and considerate. Because I think so often when we're just rewarding the achievement, that can create a cycle that goes on for a lifetime that can be really damaging.
Yeah.
And I remember my first coach, my first triathlon coach, and I will be grateful for her for a lifetime for this. On one of our first days, she said, Siri, I care way more about who you are as a human being than what you will ever achieve in this sport.
Can you say that one more time for our listeners? Because I think that is so amazing.
She said, I care way more about who you are as a human being than what you will ever achieve in this sport. And that just, man, that was the most powerful gift, because I always knew that winning or becoming something in the sport won't mean anything if I'm not the person that I aspire to be. And so I want us to reward our kids for that. I want us to, shower the love when they are being the kind of person that you hope they'll be in this lifetime, the kind of person that will bring joy and love and kindness and compassion into the world. So I don't know. Sorry, I got a little off track there.
No,
But
you're good. You're good. So, there was a question from, you have a raving fan. Her name is Daniela. And, she's heard your story at UPW and it's really saved one of her friends' life. And I think that she finally got in touch with you. She asked this question: how did your dad come around and eventually want a relationship with you? What was that moment?
That was up to me. And this is up to all of us, because it was Tony Robbins. I went to a Date with Destiny event, and day one, he's talking about forgiving the people that have hurt us. And he was talking about how if you're going to blame the person that has hurt you in your past for everything that's wrong, you also need to blame them for everything that's right.
Blame effectively.
Right. And think about that. Like, you can say, well, I'm hurt here and I haven't had a loving relationship. I haven't had the success I wanted, but what about all the good stuff? And so I thought about my dad, and I thought, imagine, if he'd called me on that day and said, somebody told me you're gay and you are just going to make the most fabulous lesbian. I mean, what would that have done? What would I have done with my life? I wouldn't have needed to change anything. And so what I realized is that his rejection gave birth inside of me to this insatiable hunger, this determination, this drive that meant that I was going to do whatever it took to achieve my impossible dream, which then in doing that would give me all the tools I need to do anything that I dreamt of doing in my life. His rejection was a gift. He was exactly who I needed him to be. And this is what Tony recommended. And I went out, like right after he said it, I went outside and I called my dad and I said, Dad, you absolutely broke my heart in a million pieces, but I forgive you. And I actually want to thank you. I want to thank you for being exactly the father I needed you to be to become the woman that I am so proud to be today. And I meant every word of it. And he cried and he said how sorry he was. He said how much pain he's been in over this, how proud he is of me. He'd been following my career for the last 25 years. Here's the thing. I had my father back and he's amazing. He calls me every single day now. He goes over the top when we're in a restaurant with my wife and I and him, and he yells out to everyone, you want to see the best marriage in the world? It's right here. These two girls, like, he is like, so now that he knows better, he does better. But here's the thing, everybody, whoever it is that you blame for the bad in your life or your inability to be the parent you want to be or achieve the success that you want to achieve, that blame is holding you back. It's giving you an excuse. It disempowers you. So when you forgive someone, that's for you. Most important, you may think like, I can't forgive that person for what they did. That's just, there's no way. The forgiveness is for you because it will see you break free from those shackles of disempowerment that are holding you back from everything that you want in your life. So I am all in for forgiveness. And here's the other thing, what I had forgotten is all the times when he did try to call me. And I would take that opportunity to just yell and scream and tell him what a horrible father he is. And I would just purge all my hurt, all my anger. Would you want to call me if every time you called me, that's what I did to you? No. Eventually you stopped calling. So I had to forgive myself too. I did the best that I could in dealing with my emotions and my anger and my hurt. I didn't have the tools then.
Right.
I have them now, and I do better now. So this is up to you. And also, when you forgive as parents, man, think of the gift you give your children. When they witness you forgiving something that has hurt you for a long time and opening your heart up, not only maybe potentially to having a relationship with that person, maybe not, but opening yourself up to love and joy in your life. That is the ultimate gift you can give your children, is to let go so that you can be free.
Oh, that's beautiful. And so, and like we said from the beginning, our kids see us. What we do gives them permission to do it too. And, it's funny because I was just talking to me and my husband were talking to the twins today, saying that, they fight, they're boy-girl twins. And I say, what happens if you drink poison? They're like, you die. I said, yeah. So that's what anger does. You're drinking the poison and expecting your opponent to die. I think Nelson Mandela said that, and I said, because hurt people hurt people. If you're hurt, you're trying to get your brother or your sister to hurt. And so you want a release of that anger out on them. So they just know how much they hurt you. And that's kind of like what you were doing with your father. You just want him to know, like, hey, you hurt me, you broke me. And you wanted him to feel the pain that you were feeling, but it wasn't working. All it did is shut him off and keep you prisoned by that pain.
That's right.
And so the forgiveness was the freedom to get out of prison, right? To get out of that prison. So, we're just a little bit, we're almost done of the show. And thank you so much for what you shared. But, it was interesting because I really got to know you pretty well over the last few years. And then I heard that you had cancer. And the first thought of being, one of the people that learned from you and I get to see your glory, I was like, really, God, you're going to give this woman one more thing? And immediately when I thought that, I said, but who better to beat this? Because look at all the things that she's learned. Look at who she is authentically. This is going to be the biggest battle that she faces of her life and her biggest triumph. And I'm so happy to know that that's exactly what happened for you. And I've never gotten to tell you that, but that was the moment
Thank
that
you.
as soon as I saw that, I was like, she's it. She's because you are now an example for those people that have cancer, that get that life sentence, that it's not theirs to give you.
That's right.
So if you could just take us through that, and that's going to probably wrap us up because I mean, you're just amazing.
First of all, thank you. Like that it touches me so deeply that you thought that, because again, in that moment, I get this call from my doctor, and the sound of his voice, the diagnosis AML, genetic mutation, my wife just losing it, like just wailing at the top of her lungs. Like in that moment, all I'm hearing is that this is the end. And I was not willing. Like I finally had that freedom I've searched for a lifetime, the love of my life, living my mission, my purpose. Like this, it just wasn't going to be my time. And as devastated, as scared, as just, I mean, inside out that I was, like, I couldn't live the story they were telling me, that this was the end. And again, I needed to become the person that believed, that knew with all her heart that she was going to survive and she was going to thrive. And that was a decision that I made. And when you make a decision, like with every decision that we've talked about today, every thought you have, every action you take is with that outcome in mind. Like, how am I going to survive? What would future me that knows that she's going to survive, that knows she's going to thrive? What would she do right now? What actions would she take? What would she believe? And the first thing, I had to give it a meaning that would serve me, that would help me understand and make sense of it. And I thought, what I'm going through now is preparing me for what I asked for. And I want you to think about that, everybody. Anytime you are going through a massive challenge, I can guarantee you that overcoming that challenge will give you a greater strength, a greater character, new abilities. You will become someone levels ahead of who you were before. So I told myself, okay, God, I'm going through this for a reason, and who I become in overcoming this and surviving on the other side, who I become will allow me to be all that I want to be. And what I knew I wanted to be, because I had found my freedom, is I wanted to be someone that could help free others from their suffering, free others to step into their fearlessly authentic selves and live the life that they dream of. Like, this has been my mission. And maybe I had a story that could inspire before, but I needed new things. I needed to overcome this, because there were things I would find out about me that would allow me to truly have the impact that I dreamed of having. Just giving it a meaning that empowered me. It gave me the energy I needed to fight this. And it was disciplining my thoughts in every single moment to what I had, to what I could appreciate, to what I wanted my future, my life, what was going to be there on the other side, and what I could control. And that was every moment what I focused on, the meaning I gave this and what I did. And thank God I'm here, and I survived, and I'm thriving, and I get to live this miracle of life, which is why I want to say to all of you, life is so precious. Every single breath that we take is a miracle. So if you're not living life the way that you hoped you would, well, start now. Yes. Because number one, you can, it's in your hands. And number two, life is short. Every moment is a miracle. So for you, for your kids, for your family, for your loved ones, be you and live life to the full now. Don't wait.
What a way to end our show, Siri. Thank you so much. And I just want to let you know, I'm watching the comments, and just to paraphrase, that the triumph that you created in your life is a ripple effect, because hearing your story gave someone else that idea to fight too. So when you don't want to get up, change your story, change your meaning, see what you're focusing on, and Siri, I can't thank you enough for bringing your story to us, to teaching us parents what authenticity looks like, to give our kids permission to be authentic in their own life.
Oh, thank you so much, Vino, for having me. It's just such a privilege and an honor. You're amazing, and keep shining your light in this world. It's needed. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I so hope that my words helped in some way, shape, or form.
Thank you so much. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.